Hi, grade 10. Here we are with Unit 2, the consequences of fraud. Reading 1, yes. Let's take a quick glimpse at the picture. What do we see here? We see here a man standing, probably facing forward, not even realizing that someone is pickpocketing him. So this guy taking out his wallet, right? Has that ever happened to you? I wonder. And look here, a laptop. Well, if you would take the laptop, it would be too obvious, but maybe the wallet was a good choice. Or not. Now, fraud and the consequences, definitely. Everything we do has a consequence. So if you choose to steal something or to take something that is not rightfully yours, then there definitely are consequences. Focus on the topic. Number 1, there are many types of fraud. For example, medical fraud, internet fraud, identity theft. Boy, there are lots. What type of fraud does the photo illustrate though? Write that down. Number 2, what are some other kinds of fraud? What can you come up with? Maybe you've ever experienced it, or a friend of yours or a family member. And number 3, is fraud more or less common today than in the past? And why would that be? Or why not? Okay, try to think of that and jot down some of your ideas that we can discuss in the meeting we will have together. And then I would love to hear what you have to say. Reading 1, Catch Me If You Can, the Frank Abagnale story. Okay, catch me if you can. That is something. First off, as we always do, we start with the vocabulary. In this case, we look at the words and the meaning of the words, and you're going to try to find the correct synonym. Now, what's a synonym? Do you guys remember that? It's a different word, but with the same meaning or similar meaning. And synonyms are important. We use them a lot in academic English because in our writing, we do not want to be repetitive. It is not good to keep repeating the same words. So that's why we need a whole lot of synonyms in order to make sure that our writing and our work is not repetitive. We also look at the words and phrases in context of the text, and that's what we're going to do first. So I'd like you to read the online article, Types of Fraud, and pay attention to the bold-faced words. And if, for example, it is hard for you to know what it is, you can look it up, use a search engine, write down the explanation, or maybe you would want to write on top of the bold-faced word what it is in Bahasa. Okay, you can pause your video and read. Great. Now that brings us to activity 2. Circle the correct synonym of each bold-faced word. So we've got fraud, motive, impersonate, deception, con man or woman, suspicious, fake, and we've got honesty. You can pause your video to answer numbers 1 to 8. That brings us to the part of previewing, and that is the first reading strategy or reading skill that you really need to master. Because basically, before you read any text, you always have to preview. Previewing is important because it helps you to build focus. And if you do not build that focus, you go straight into the text, halfway through, you will not remember what you've read. Okay, to be more effective in your reading, meaning that you will understand what you're reading, to be faster in your reading, and also more accurate, you need to preview. Now, previewing is when we are predicting the text type and the purpose. And we do that by looking at the title and annotating the keywords in the title, looking at subtitles or subheadings if the text has it, and we look at visuals, and that gives us a concept of what the text will be about. Now, for instance, doing that with this text, Catch Me If You Can, the Frank Abagnale story, We see the picture here. This refers to the movie that was made and played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. It's a bit of an older movie. I don't know if you've watched it. It's funny to watch though. And so when we look and preview, we really only look at the title and the visuals and headings. But here, this one, this text has no headings. Now, if you would then underline or circle the keywords in the title, you can say catch, can, and then a name, for example. Okay, what you're gonna do before we get into the text, I want you to you're going to read the true story of Frank. This is a true story, Frank Abagnale. He is a former conman, and that is because it is a true story. It's interesting. Now, well, before you read it, I would like you to look at the list below, and I want you to check 3 types of fraud that you think you might read about in the story. 3 types of fraud. You wouldn't know, but you need to predict. Okay, go ahead, do that. Cool. Now we're going to read Frank Abagnale's story. Abagnale's story, yes. Now, before we get into that, I'd like to remind you of the second reading strategy and skill you need to know, which is called skimming. Yeah, so the first one is previewing, predicting the type of the text, what type of text it is. Could be an article, could be anything. It could be informative, right? And then for skimming, you're going to read the first paragraph, which is the introductory paragraph. You're going to read every topic sentence, which is the first sentence in every body paragraph, and you're going to read the concluding paragraph. And by doing so, you will come up with the main idea of the text, and that is the general idea of the text. Now, the main idea of the text is also found in the introduction, in the thesis statement. The thesis statement is the last sentence in the introductory paragraph, and the thesis statement equals the general main idea. It holds the general topic that will be discussed in the text, and it holds the purpose, and the purpose is what will be discussed about the topic. So, thesis statement, main topic and purpose equals general main idea. Now, we also have sub-main ideas, the smaller ones. Those we can find in every topic sentence, meaning in every first sentence of every body paragraph. The topic sentence equals sub-main idea, which is the subtopic and the purpose. The subtopic, which will be discussed in that paragraph, and the purpose, what will tell us what will be discussed about that topic. So topic sentence equals sub-main idea equals subtopic and purpose. Awesome. Okay, so if we're going to skim and read the introductory paragraph, every topic sentence, and the concluding paragraph, we basically already grasped the general main idea and every sub-main idea. Yes, let's do it together to get an idea of how this works. A doctor, a lawyer, an airline pilot, a college professor, former conman Frank Abagnale played all these roles as a young man stealing millions of dollars from banks around the world. He first impersonated an airline pilot by wearing a pilot's uniform. Next, he dated another flight attendant whom he impressed by claiming that he had graduated from law school. The young conman escaped from this uncomfortable situation by heading to the Western United States. In France, Abagnale was recognized by flight attendants and reported to the authorities. After his release, Abagnale had a problem shared by many other criminals: limited job opportunities. His first book, Catch Me If You Can, was made into a Steven Spielberg film in 2002. Okay, that's apparently the last one, so we keep reading. In one interview, he was asked if he had ever thought about becoming an actor, considering his skills at impersonation. The answer was no. The real Frank Abagnale is satisfied with his real life as a company owner and family man. Okay, that would be skimming. Reading the first paragraph. I think I didn't do that just now. I think I missed that one out. So yeah. So reading the first paragraph, the introductory paragraph, and then the first sentence of each body paragraph up till the last paragraph, which is the conclusion. Okay, I think I forgot to read the introductory paragraph completely just now. Yeah, my bad. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now, as you are previewing or skimming, you should always annotate, always underline, circle, highlight the keywords and everything that you're reading. Okay, and now when we're gonna go into the text, so you're going to read and listen along, I'd like you to underline or circle, highlight the keywords of the main points that you are hearing. Okay, cool.
Catch Me If You Can. The Frank Abagnale Story. A doctor, a lawyer, an airline pilot, a college professor. Former conman Frank Abagnale played all these roles as a young man, stealing millions of dollars from banks around the world. His money-making secret? Cashing false checks. His motive for playing different roles? Respect and excitement. He enjoyed having other people believe that he was important. He first impersonated an airline pilot by wearing a pilot's uniform. Then he created a phony airline ID. The result was very exciting to him. Abagnale never operated a plane, but he used his pilot uniform to fly for free and to date attractive young flight attendants. Then he discovered a luxury apartment community near Atlanta, Georgia. He paid cash for 6 months' rent in advance and wrote medical doctor on his apartment application. He soon became friends with a doctor in the apartment community. After convincing this man that he too was a medical doctor, he was offered a hospital job as a temporary supervisor. Abagnale performed this role by relying on nurses and medical students to do all the work, while he simply pretended to be in charge. But finally, when faced with a life-or-death situation involving a newborn baby, Abagnale decided that he could no longer continue the deception. He knew that if he kept impersonating a doctor, an innocent child might die. Still, before leaving his hospital job, Abagnale made sure to get his paycheck. Next, he dated another flight attendant, whom he impressed by claiming that he had graduated from law school. She introduced him to a real lawyer, who immediately offered him a position as a state attorney. Abagnale accepted the offer, but he needed to create a fake transcript from Harvard Law School. He also needed to pass the state law exam. He studied for several weeks but failed the 8-hour exam on his first and second attempts. When he tried a third time, he passed and became a licensed attorney despite the fact that he had never finished high school. He worked as a lawyer for 9 months before he met a genuine Harvard graduate who started asking him specific questions about the school and its professors. Because Abagnale could not answer these questions, the man became suspicious and started questioning Abagnale's honesty. The young conman escaped from this uncomfortable situation by heading to the western United States. There, he visited college campuses in Utah, where he was impressed with the beauty of female students. He decided to apply for a summer teaching position, which he obtained by making a fake transcript from Columbia University and writing false letters of recommendation. Abagnale was quite happy to work as a professor. To prepare for class, he simply used the textbook, making sure to stay 1 chapter ahead of the students. Abagnale also discussed his own personal experiences in class, and the students responded with much interest. But when summer school ended, he could no longer stay in Utah. He knew that the FBI was searching for him because he had been cashing phony checks all over the country. He moved to California and eventually to France, thinking he could live quietly and safely there. However, he was wrong. In France, Abagnale was recognized by a flight attendant and reported to the authorities. Soon, he was in a French prison, where he almost died because of very little food and very dirty surroundings. After 6 months, he was sent to a prison in Sweden. He learned that police in several European countries were waiting to arrest him for check fraud, and he feared that prison conditions in other places might be even worse than those in France. Eventually, Sweden sent him to the United States, where he spent 4 years in federal prison. After his release, Abagnale had a problem shared by many other criminals: limited job opportunities. He worked hard in various entry-level positions and showed the ability to become a top manager, but could not get any high positions because of his prison background. He thought about returning to a life of crime, but decided instead to offer his services as a white-collar crime specialist, teaching banks and other businesses how to avoid becoming the victims of fraud. Soon he was offered a position working with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. Today, he runs his own company. It specializes in protecting checks and other documents against fraud. His first book, Catch Me If You Can, was made into a Steven Spielberg film in 2002. In one interview, he was asked if he had ever thought about becoming an actor, considering his skill at impersonation. The answer was no. The real Frank Abagnale is satisfied with his real life as a company owner and family man.
Interesting. Unbelievable. That's a really cool story. And knowing that that is real. Okay, that brings us to main ideas. Now, look again at the preview on page 27. How did your predictions help you understand the story? Yeah, what is it you did just now? You checked 3 types of fraud that you thought would be discussed. Okay, number 2. Activity 2. Put the events of Frank Abagnale's life in chronological order. So this story, this is a true story about this man, about his crime. So there is a chronological order. If someone else writes about someone else's life, that would be a biography, right? If we ourselves write about our own life, that would be an autobiography. And if it is written in a story form, it would be a biographical narrative or an autobiographical narrative. Okay. Now, this one also has a timeline, a chronological order. Can you please put the events of Frank Abagnale's life in the right chronological order? So you got to look at A until F and put it in the right order. You got to start with V. He impersonates an airline pilot. That's the first thing he does. That's number 1. And what other things did he do in the right order? You can pause your video and answer that. Okay, now main ideas, as I said just now, the general main idea we find in the thesis statement in the first paragraph, right? And the sub-main ideas we find in the topic sentences, correct? Now, just to check whether your answers just now were correct or not, you can go back to the text and look at the thesis statement or the introduction and the beginning of every body paragraph to see if it is in the correct order, yes or no. You can also scan through the text. Now, what is scanning? Scanning is that you're not really reading the text, but you're just looking over it. Now, for example, if I have the text here, I'm not going to read it, but I'm just looking over it. And what am I doing if I'm just looking at the text? I am looking for a keyword. Now, as you can see here, you always have to underline or circle keywords in a sentence or in a question. For example, here we can see that. Here there is this sentence, circling the keywords, underlining the keywords in the sentence, and then going back to the text and going over the text. You're kind of trying to locate the place where you can find that particular keyword you have underlined in either the question or the answer choice. You are not reading the text, you're just going through it. Now, you gotta understand and remember that a lot of words are paraphrased. So you might not exactly find the exact same keyword back in the text. It might be a different word, but it has the same meaning. So you're looking for a keyword, even exactly the same or similar in meaning. And then when you find it, like, okay, here it is, then you always look at the context before that point, you read it, and the context after that particular keyword. Basically, you read the whole paragraph to understand. So you're trying to locate where you can find the answer to a question. Details are the development of the main points, right? So the topic sentence is the sub-main idea, and then you have several main points in your paragraph, and each main point is developed by details, and those are the more specific points. And to find those in the text, use scan. So pause your video and go over your text, scan it, and choose the letter of the best ending on the right, A to K, to complete each sentence, which is on the left. And the first one is done for you. Number 1, Abagnale used his uniform to gain free travel. Pause your video. Go ahead. Okay, that brings us to the part of making inferences, and remember that is an educated guess about something where we look at the facts, combine the facts in order to get a conclusion. It is the implied meaning, something that is not literally stated. We read between the lines to get it. We are analyzing the context. That's basically what we're doing. Now we're inferring comparisons, when we're comparing things now. An inference is an educated guess about something that is not directly stated in a text. Writers sometimes suggest comparisons without directly stating them. A reader can infer these comparisons by reading the text closely. Look at the example and read the explanation. Frank Abagnale was more successful. Choose the best way to complete the comparison statement. Frank Abagnale was more successful cashing false checks or deceiving people in the medical world. Now the best answer is B. In paragraph 2, we learned that Abagnale worked in a hospital but made his own decisions to leave the hospital because of an innocent child might die. He worked in the hospital but he chose to leave. He was successful. Okay. In paragraph 4, we learned that the FBI was searching for him because he had been cashing phony checks, so he was not successful. In paragraph 5, we learned that several European countries were waiting to arrest him for check fraud. He was not successful. So after reading the text closely, we can infer that Abagnale was more successful deceiving people in the medical world than he was successful at cashing false checks. Correct? And that is how we compare. We can compare several paragraphs one with another, and from there we can come up with a conclusion. Now I want you to choose the best way to complete each comparison statement. Refer to the paragraphs in the parentheses. So you got to go back to the paragraph in the text. Do not just read this part of the sentence and answer, but go back to the paragraph. As here in the parentheses, we see paragraphs 2 and 3. Pause your video to answer number 1, 2, and 3. Great. That brings us to the last part of reading 1, which is expressing opinions, where we reason concepts and ideas, and we think about the 5 W's and I and H. Why is it the way it is? Why is it not another way? What is it? What could it be? How was it done? When was it done? All those kind of questions. And we then form our own opinion, and we state that opinion in a respectful way. We develop our opinion by using reasons, and maybe even step 3, where we show how our opinion can result into something, or how our opinion can affect the environment around us, or what effect it has on ourselves. Okay, that brings us to number 1. Which of Abagnale's impersonations do you think was the most dangerous, and why? He impersonated a lot of people, but which one do you think was the most dangerous? And give reasons why. Number 2, why do you think, or what do you think was more important to Abagnale? Money or respect? And please come up with evidence. Why do you have that opinion? So you got to come up with something from the text that supports that opinion. Number 3, do you think that Abagnale was punished fairly for his fraud? Explain your answer. So come up with your opinion, give reasons for your answer, maybe even back it up with evidence from the text, and maybe you want to also add what it results into or how it affects, how your opinion can affect something else. Just think about it and write it down. Awesome. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson. You did a great job today. I would like to wrap it up by giving a very quick review. So as we went over reading 1, we started out with our vocabulary, the bold-faced words in context, trying to figure out what they mean in context, means in the text surrounding it, and also trying to come up with synonyms for different words but with the same meaning to replace the bold-faced word. Then we went over previewing as the first reading strategy, where we look at the title, subheadings, and the visuals to predict the type of text and the purpose. And then we went over the main idea. We talked about skimming, which is the second reading strategy. Skimming, where we read the introductory paragraph, every first sentence, which is the topic sentence of each body paragraph, and we read the concluding paragraph to get the general main idea. And the general main idea is also stated in the thesis statement, and the thesis statement is the last sentence in the introductory paragraph, whereas every first sentence of every body paragraph, which is called the topic sentence, that is equal to a sub-main idea. So thesis statement equals general main idea equals general topic and purpose. Topic sentence equals sub-main idea equals subtopic and purpose. And so we had to put the sub-main idea as a main point in a chronological order. And after that, we went over details, and it brought us to the third reading strategy, which is scanning, where we had to go back into the text to look over the text, through the text, but not really reading it word for word. And we were looking for a keyword or a synonym of the keyword that we had annotated to find the location where to find the answer in order to find the correct ending for the sentence. Making inferences, we learned to infer comparisons, how things are compared. So sometimes we can compare different paragraphs with one another, and from there we can come up with a conclusion. So by comparing, you come up with a conclusion. And that is also not always literally stated, but we can find that by comparing the facts or looking at different factors, and from there we can conclude. And last but not least, we expressed our opinion, reasoning a concept, having an opinion about it, being able to explain that by giving reasons and maybe even evidence from the text or an example, and maybe even showing what it results into. You did a great job today. Thank you very much for your hard work. We'll see each other really soon in the next video. Take good care of yourself. God bless you. Bye-bye.